We recognize that the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society gathers on land seized from the Western Abenaki people by European colonizers. We respect the Abenaki's spiritual relationship to the land and waters of the Champlain Valley. We are committed to building a peaceful and more just relationship with them and to promoting knowledge about their history and culture. Welcome, beloved community, both in person and online, to the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society service for today, December 5th, 2021. This is the first Sunday of December, and we welcome the trees in all their states. And we have a very inspiring and fun project with Christmas wreaths as well. My name is Julia Chant, and I will be serving as Worship Associate for Reverend Barnaby Feeder. Please note, if you are with us online, the lyrics for all today's hymns will be in the chat. On screen. Oh, I'm sorry. And we also, this is my first time with the wonderful TV here too, so I'm very excited about that as well. There's a whole team that makes today's service possible. Thanks, Ronnie Romano, the whole choir, and Poppy for our great music. We have a great technical team, Avi Frund, Sherman LaRose, Richard Hopkins, Rich Wolfson, and Abby Sessions are all on that great team today. Our flower co-op and Scott Barkdahl helped with trees, wreaths, and holiday arrangements. And then we have our great setup team, Mark Greenwood, Alan Moore, and many others that I don't have their names, and I apologize for not mentioning you. If this is your first time with us, our community seeks to be inclusive and supportive of all that are looking for spiritual sustenance and religious education. We are open to all who find our commitment to this religious integrity and social justice inspiring.
So normally the worship associate would also talk to you about the pathways to connection, but I wanted to do that today because I hadn't done it in a long, long time, and I wanted to actually do it and then think about how that works as an element of our worship. I happened to be listening to Krista Tippett this morning, and any of you who heard her talk about pathways to connection also heard that discussion saying It's not just the connection, but it's the spirit of the connection. Is there kindness in the connection? Is there love in the connection? Because there are also some painful ways to connect. And I want to assure you that all the opportunities that I'm offering to you this morning have to do with that love and kindness form of connection. First of all, there's an opportunity to participate in the annual project where some of us get gifts for people who were stuck in the Porter Rehab Center over Christmas. And the information went out from Porter a little bit late this year, and Barbara Mertz, who has organized us in the past, is not doing that. So Sheila House agreed to be the organizer. And what I have down here, which and it's next to the offering basket, are the list of the 10 people who are in Porter now who they're hoping CVUUS will provide some gifts for. And under each person you'll see, or each number, because privacy prevents us from actually identifying the people, you'll see the 3 requests, and you can get 1 thing or 3 things. They tend to be pretty simple things for comfort. And so what we would like this morning is when you come to do the offering, or at any other time when you're free, if that's a project that you've participated in or would like to participate in, read the sheet and just leave your name next to whatever number that person is, and Sheila will be in touch with you. So that's one great opportunity for connection within our community and the wider community. There's also an opportunity for connection, which is a little bit complicated to lay out on a table. So I'll just say, if you're interested in this, watch for the announcement in the blast of how to do it. But the Church of the Larger Fellowship, which is the Unitarian Universalist Association group that reaches out to people who aren't near any physical congregation, now has a third of its members, close to 900, are incarcerated people. And they have an annual Christmas greeting card project for the incarcerated people. And it's always been very tightly regulated by the prisons, because they have to make it work with prisons at all levels in all states. But this year, because of COVID, it's even more regulated exactly what could be done. But briefly, if you contact the CLF, they will send you the form you can use, and you can write whatever greeting you want. They have some guidance. They ask you only to sign your first name, and the instructions will be there on how to do it. So if you're interested in being in contact with an incarcerated person, watch for the directions in the blast, and I'll put them also in my weekend greeting next Friday. It's the Holiday Letters to Prisoners Project. There's a climate webinar that's going to run all week, noon to 1:15, sponsored by VPIRG. I'm going to listen to it. If anyone else wants to listen to it and talk to me afterwards about what they just heard, I'm available for that and this kind of pop-up RE thing. The one I'm particularly interested in is their outlook for the legislative action this year on the new climate action plan. So that was in the blast last week, and will be online how to participate in that. There are openings for at least 1 person on both the donations team, which helps us decide how we share our offerings and meets maybe once a quarter, and on the worship team, which is entering a very exciting period because it's not only doing all the things it does with me normally, but is also looking ahead to the 4-month sabbatical, when the worship team has a much bigger role in deciding what happens here. So if you think you might be interested in that, please contact Abby, who is knitting there and stopping knitting just to raise her hand. Or you can let me know and I will put you in touch with Abby. And finally, Priscilla has something she wants to share with you briefly, which I was going to share, but she can share better. So I said, yay, when she said, can I do this?
Hi, everybody. Mary Hadley has put together a wonderful actual catalog for the Radical Love giveaway. And I have a couple printed out copies. I'll put them out in the foyer. But It will be available online. We're trying to use as little paper as possible. This is great. There are 10 pages categorized. There's food offerings. There are homemade items. There are event offerings. You can have a look. And Mary, who can't be here this morning, will make a link to the actual catalog on the CVUUS webpage, and it'll also be in the blast. And so please have a look and follow the links to put in your bids. Thanks. By Friday, December 10th. Thanks, dear.
For those of you online, that was Steve, Priscilla's husband. She does call everybody in the congregation dear, of course, but in this case it was particularly apt. For those of you who happen to be tuning in for the first time, the Radical Love Giveaway, I'll just say briefly, is our replacement for a traditional fall fundraiser church auction, which makes what we're sharing available to everybody without regard to your financial status, because it's all done via a lottery with tickets. And if you want more information about that, you can get in touch with the office. To counteract the financial side, we have simply asked those people who are in a position to do so to make a fall donation to the congregation. But it's not having anything to do with your chances to participate in the giveaway. And now Julia for the call to worship.
Today's call to worship is titled A Renewed Hope for This World by Nathan Ryan. Be it real or metaphor, whatever is in your backpack or your briefcase or your purse that you've brought into this sanctuary that is weighing you down, leave it behind. Whatever you are carrying that is keeping you distracted or caught up in shame or guilt or hopelessness, leave it behind. If you need it, it will be there when we're done. But for this hour, just let it go. Come into this place with open hearts. Come into this place with a soul that has remembered how to be tender again. Come into this place with a renewed hope for this world. Come into this place ready to build a world we've always been worthy of and always dreamed of. So now we light the chalice. Chalice is a flame within a bowl, and it's a primary symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. Many of our congregations kindle a flaming chalice in gatherings and worships and feature this chalice symbol prominently in many ways. We light a flaming chalice in worship to create a reverent space for reflection, prayer, meditation, and singing. And today's words were written by Scott May. We light this chalice, this beacon of hope, and it reminds us that science is all around us, that the earth is all around us, that we are one with nature.
And although Poppy can't be with us, we now get to enjoy her presence via the screen.
Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another, and may we walk in peace. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what
we long for the day when life is back to normal enough for Poppy to be having children come up front and for that screen to be used to show illustrations from books that she's sharing with the kids or whatever. But in the meantime, we're holding this spot, this ritual for all ages, for whatever seems appropriate. And today, what seemed appropriate to me is to explain the 3 trees that are up here, or 2.5 because of some problems, but this one staying up. And for those of you who weren't here last year, what happened was we were completely closed down, and we wanted to create a way for congregants over the whole month of December to safely come into the space alone or in 2s or 3s with a pod and see the space completely decorated in the season spirit. So we had a Jewish stand over there for Hanukkah, and we had a Christian stand over on this side that had creches and our hymn books open to all the Christmas carols. And in the middle, in honor of how much more time we were spending getting in touch with the worldview of the Abenaki on whose land we sit, we had 3 trees. And the 3 trees grew out of the story of how corn, bean, and squash worked together to make a fruitful garden and a fruitful harvest in a world in balance. And after discussing that in the fall, we had gone on, and I had created a sense of the 3 sisters of love being justice and beauty and compassion. And each of the trees were decorated to represent one of those things, so people who were able to come through were able to see that. Well, we want to continue this connection with this way of thinking. We don't want to make it a dive-in, dive-out experience. So we wanted to have the 3 trees again, and we figured this year we would decorate them over the course of the month. We could have some of the decorations from last year. And the way it was set up was this tree represented the community and the sense of compassion that we all have for each other. And if you go out, you'll see festooned on the edge of the board out there the wreath we made of little cutout pictures of everybody in the congregation. And once we update that, that can go back. This was the tree that specifically spoke to the Abenaki worldview, and we had a lot of things on it like that were symbols of Abenaki culture, like these otters. And we have saved some of those symbols, and they will go back on, but we can add new ones this year. And on the tree that isn't right there, because we don't have an effective stand for keeping it up, which we discovered in a rather dramatic crash yesterday, is what we call the Tree of Beauty, and that's the one that has been the home for a lot of the ornaments that our children have made in past years and other people have made or brought in. And there are all kinds of ornaments. There are things like this little necklace, a heart-shaped necklace. There's a whole bunch of them out on that table over there, which I'll explain how they can be incorporated into today's service. There's a lot of peace cranes, and we found that the peace crane, when people who came to visit were given a choice, ended up on all 3 trees. That was an interesting finding of this experience. So that's the background for what's here. And then the fact that we're trying to do it again and things are going wrong, I have to say, reminded me of a story called The Church Where Everything Goes Wrong by Reverend Elia Kemmler. And she recounts a church where everything has gone wrong. The office machines have broken and people who were supposed to do something did something else. And she finally gets partway through the service and she suddenly has this realization, and this is how she ends this reflection. I imagine a God who is moved by our attempts to care for one another and to name the things we know as holy. There is a warmth in this congregation, a simple friendliness that shines through the fumblings and failures, a love that makes the ragged edges smooth. I have always wanted to believe, really believe, that our mistakes aren't the most important parts of us. I have always wanted to believe that kindness and compassion matter more than anything. I sense that I can learn this here. And that would have been the lesson that I would have shared with our children if they'd been among us. So that's how we're concluding the ritual for all ages this week. And Ronnie has some music in honor of the three trees, and he'll do that with us now and the choir. I don't know if you want to say anything about it or not, Ronnie. No? Okay. Should be familiar to a lot of people. While the choir takes its seats, let me introduce to you the offering. We're in a new month. We have a new community group that we're sharing our offering with. It's the Charterhouse Coalition, a group that we work with very closely. We haven't actually made them the recipient of our December offering, though, in a few years. So the donations team was able to agree pretty easily. It was time to bring them back into the rotation. Charterhouse, for those of you who don't know it, is an emergency shelter, and it also runs community food programs, which are mainly takeout lunches right now during COVID, and it provides help for homeless people seeking advice on how to do housing applications, and for people who are in their homes but are in financial trouble on how to work with the Vermont Rental Assistance Program on how to stay in their home and not end up homeless. So we invite you to be as generous as you're able in our offering for Charterhouse today. Oh, and I invite people who are here, if they want to use the basket. At home you have the usual directions. You can also contribute online as indicated in the order of service. I have two milestones to share with you today. The first is from Bobby Carmuth. And Bobby said to me in a yellow card, she carefully prepared a homemade yellow card. Last Sunday, 15 years after Jack and I met online through the static of a dial-up connection, we were online again, this time with a video connection with our families. Officiated by our Buddhist Sangha sister, Judge Colleen Brown, we committed to vows borrowed from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. We finally got married. And I knew this was happening last Sunday, and I said, can I announce it? And Bobby said, no, wait till it's after the ceremony. After 15 years, you can't be too careful. But Bobby also sent me a copy of the vows, which are like impressively complete and long, and all of the different things in the tradition that you commit to doing. In fact, it's broken into 5 sections, and in Colleen read each section, and at the end of each section asked Bobby and Jack to say, we do, rather than trying to repeat the whole section. And so 5 times they said, we do, to some pretty amazing things. And so, Bobby, I just want to say, in terms of appreciating you and loving you and wishing you the best in your marriage, I think the whole congregation can say, we do. And the second milestone was, for those of you who don't know, the Jewish day starts at sundown, not with sunrise. And so today at sundown will mark the beginning of the last day of Hanukkah, the 8th day of Hanukkah, when people who light menorahs will fill them up. And for those of you who don't know the tradition, Hanukkah is a celebration of freedom, because it marks the time of a revolt when a Jewish family managed to get the people to rise up and throw out the Greeks who were ruling Israel at that time. And later, after this happened, the legend grew up that when they went to the Holy Temple, there was only enough consecrated oil to burn for one night. And they knew they had a very important festival that they needed to celebrate that they had put off because they didn't have access to the temple. And they needed 8 nights for that festival. But they lit the candle, and it lasted for 8 nights. So this is the reason you have the lighting of the menorah. So Ronnie has the choir prepared to sing a Hanukkah song called Light One Candle. And while the choir organizes, are you going to do it seated down or standing again, Ronnie? Okay, so while you get organized, I'm just going to say that we mark this as a milestone in the congregation in honor not just of all the Jewish UUs, and there are quite a few, but also our Jewish neighbors here in town at the Havarah, who use our building many times, and for all people all over the world who need freedom and need some miracles to get up over the hump, to get that freedom. So now for something completely different. Over the last few months, I've given very traditional kinds of sermons from this pulpit on subjects that I believe you called me to talk about that I felt were important. But it's also true that just sitting and listening doesn't always connect us as well as doing things physically that embody what we're trying to get to. And the traditional service isn't set up to embody things all that well. Our children in their Sunday school programs get a lot better chance to do that. And so I thought today I would try to make where the sermon used to be a time for embodiment, and specifically embodiment of hope that we will overcome this incredible challenge of climate change and our fractured relationship with the earth. Now we're doing this not alone. We're doing this with the Interfaith Climate Action Network. Because when I suggested to them at our last meeting that I wanted to do something like this, they all liked the idea. And so a lot of congregations in different ways are going to be doing something similar to what we're doing. And then the Interfaith Climate Action Network wants to put all this together into some kind of a slideshow or video and maybe write up something about what people found through this process for an article in the Addison Independent. So in addition to having an adventure and having fun, we're doing some discovery about maybe how this could filter into the wider community. Now it doesn't happen just in a vacuum. We've been doing work like this in our congregation for a long time, and some of it with the Interfaith Climate Action Network. So before we start, I just want to remind you of the Active Hope workshops that we had here, several of them a couple years ago before COVID, and I think there was an attempt to have one even right after COVID started. This is based on the work of Johanna Macy. She didn't invent the term, but she made it famous. And I want to just read you a couple of quotes from the book Active Hope by Joanna Macy and Chris Johnstone about what she calls the Great Turning, the story of how we actually met this challenge of climate change. The Great Turning is a name for the essential adventure of our time, the shift from the industrial growth society to a life-sustaining civilization. The most remarkable feature of this historical movement on Earth is not that we are on the way to destroying the world. We've actually been on the way to that for quite a while. It is that we are beginning to wake up from a millennial-long sleep to a whole new relationship to our world, to ourselves, and each other. If the world is to be healed through human efforts, I am convinced it will be by ordinary people, people whose love for this life is even greater than their fear, people who can open to the web of life that has called us into being. She names 3 ways this is going to happen. Holding actions, things that stop it from getting worse. Changing actions, things that start to put us on the road to getting better. And a vision for the future of what we want to see happen. All 3 are essential. Now in our embodiment, because we are also connecting with the Native American spirituality, which is already in this frame of mind that Joanna Macy has been talking about, we decided to go in that direction to inspire you. So what's going to happen is Julia is going to read what you might call an invocation to that, and then we're going to read the 4 directions, which will explain the 4 wreaths in this room, and then we're going to engage in this activity.
If we practice drawing on the wisdom and beauty and strengths of our fellow human beings and our fellow species, we can go into any situation and trust that the courage and intelligence required will be supplied. to the Four Directions by Joan Goodwin. Spirit of the East, spirit of air, of morning and springtime, be with us as the sun rises in times of beginning, times of planting. Inspire us with the fresh breath of courage as we go forth into new adventures.
And the East wreath, in that spirit, we're going to invite you, when you go there, to use the materials or anything else you've brought with you. You can write things out, you can make things. It can be a very abstract reference to what you're going to do that exists only in your mind. You don't have to explain it to anyone. Julia will be over there to help you figure out how to work it with the wreath. And at that East thing, we're going to be related to human inspiration and community. Things that give you hope that are related to your ancestors, people you know. You can make a little clay sculpture of Greta Thunberg or pipe cleaners, or write something, whatever you want, but it's the spirit of the East is the human inspiration that gives us hope.
Spirit of the South, spirit of fire, of noontime and summer, be with us through the heat of the day and help us to be ever growing. Warm us with strength and energy for the work that awaits.
So energy is at the basis of all technology, harnessing of energy. So this South wreath will be the place you'll go if you have something that really gives you hope on the technology front. And I have from our children's boxes some little symbols of things that humans have developed by mastering technology, just as good. But you can go anywhere, and I invite you to go into your imagination and imagine technologies that don't even exist, if that's what working on, touching that, feeling it, connects you with your hope.
Spirit of the West, spirit of water, of evening and autumn, be with us as the sun sets and help us to enjoy a rich harvest. Flow through us with a cooling, healing quietness and bring us peace.
And the spirit of the West is related to harmony with the earth. So things that give you hope because they symbolize for you ways that we are in harmony with the earth, guides for things that we do right, that we can maybe reinforce.
Spirit of the North, spirit of earth, of nighttime and winter, be with us in the darkness, in the time of gestation. Ground us in the wisdom of the changing seasons as we celebrate the spiraling journey of our lives.
And Julie and I decided that the spirit of the North relates to hope from your willingness to change and things around you that show an ability to change with the seasons, to gestate, if that's what needs to be done during the winter months. How is that hopeful for you in terms of where we need to go? Now, these are guides. You can go to any station you want, and Julia will be there, and I'll be here to answer questions. And Ellen Flight is going to be on the west wall, and Catherine Schloff will be on the table in the foyer at the north, and Bobby Carnwith is going to start out with Julia. And then we have extra materials here. We have a box that's used for children's stories at the technology thing. I'm going to ask that you leave, if you use something from there, that you leave it here so I can get it back in the box and Poppy won't wring my neck. And we have a bunch of the decorations that will go up on that tree when we can make the tree stand that children have made in past years, and you can come up and look at them for inspiration and move them around to whatever wreath you want. So when you get to the stations, it'll be explained, but don't worry about how it's attached. Remember, you can put things in the middle, you can put things around the edges. We're going to take pictures from above, and then that will become part of our display. So get up, wander around, let whatever happens, happen. What you feel, feel. Touch things. Imagine things you want to touch and record them. And we'll give you at least 15 minutes for this, maybe 20 if people look like they're into it. I'm going to invite people to take whatever they're currently holding with them to their seats to keep thinking about it. The choir prepares for our closing song. Where we go with this is still a little up in the air. We're going to at least leave these here for the next couple days. If you have an idea of something you want to bring in and you're swinging by church and you want to add it, we probably won't take the photos. Well, I'll probably take some photos just to be safe today, but we'll probably take some final photos in the middle of the week. And spread the word to CVUUS people you didn't see that they can come in and do some things here. And for those of you at home, if you've got something to add to these displays, I'll send out a little note today reminding people of what the different directions stand for, and you can drop something off and ask that they be added. This is the beginning of the Advent season, when people look ahead to Christmas and think about what they are hoping for, not just in the climate world. And so we have one of our favorite Advent Christmas songs as the closing song the choir is going to sing for us. And I thank all of you who came for today. I should say we had over 100 people here yesterday for the memorial service for Jim Ross, including a sizable number of congregants who aren't with us today. So I know they're with us today in spirit. And this space has once again, been filled with the many, many different forms of love and hoping for the future. So.
Our benediction today is a poem by Eric Williams entitled Four-Element Blessing. May the firmness of the earth be yours. May the flow of the water be yours. May the freedom of the air be yours. May the fierceness of the fire be yours. May all the gifts of this life, the below and the above, be with you now and remain with you always.